Hi, this is Maria Chirinos. I am very happy to be with you. I'm going to share the PPT. Sorry, here we are. Okay. Maybe many of you have remembered Lewis' famous book, Surprised by Joy. The title has been chosen with this purpose in mind, to recall this classic and to propose a simple thesis. Home and happiness are essentially related. And the guiding thread that runs through this topic is our human condition. We are fragile, vulnerable, we need others in order to be happy, and these relations are not only based on feelings, but mainly on real and human care. Sorry, I wanted to share with you. And that real and human care can be developed in different spaces and circumstances, but one cannot be ignored: home. To humanize our civilization means to tackle one of the most undervalued realities, work at home, and one of the most dangerous taboos, our fragility and pain. All these ideas have been recently challenged by the coronavirus disease. This worldly pandemic has given us the opportunity to focus on the real meaning of family life: dependency, fragility, care, and other human topics such as bereavement. The test has been as real as unexpected, but the news is not all bad. Different studies are revealing the value of the familiar unit to deal with this pandemic. If health and illness are a familiar affair, or should be, the COVID-19 pandemic shows us that death and grief are familiar affair too. Therefore, the COVID-19 pandemic is not only one of the worst public health crises in our recent history, but its consequences, lockdown, only online communications, changes in our social habits, banning burial rituals, etc., have brought unprecedented circumstances in everyday life and are impacting the family unit in all our world. Due to the pandemic, and even if things have gone wrong in families and households, domestic work and care have acquired a strong position in the lives of all members of at home. Rather than take them for granted, societies and governments, husbands and children, private and public institutions, rich and poor families have discovered in a practical way that both domestic work and care could become an important source of health, well-being, and education. And this means that they are also related to happiness. Sorry. There is a very interesting feminist stream of thinkers that are talking about ethics, care ethics, since the 80s of the last century. I'm going to refer briefly to this topic of care because it's very important. Our needs do not only appear when we are suffering, like in the pandemic, suffering extreme situations of sickness or pain. We present daily and bodily needs that most of the time require the specific attention known as empathy. Empathy represents a new approach to another's needs. It has to do with two personal experiences, one self-concern regarding another self-concern. Empathy is expressed in the statement that wherever we perceive a human need, there is an opportunity for care. Fragility and recalls another notion that was forbidden for the Enlightenment: dependence. Empathy discovers these the defects and wants that we have. Care attends to them as actions of a subject who dedicates time, effort, emotion, and even good work to another subject to cure his or her damaged well-being. What relation has care to happiness? No, that is also a very interesting point. To talk about happiness is daring. For many researchers, it is too vague or too subjective. It is difficult to give happiness the meaning that can be shared by all human beings. Since the last century, according to Stephen Post, it has already been well established that compassion, love, and social support have health benefits for recipients. Besides, the Journal of Happiness Studies has successfully been published since 2000, and Harvard Business School has included this topic in its program. And since 2012, the United Nations publishes the World Happiness Report with articles and rankings of national happiness based on respondent ratings of their own lives. All this shows that happiness is not a superficial issue at all. But maybe the most daring attempt to restore the importance of happiness is some quite well-known research that came to prominence several years ago. This outstanding survey had an original focus right from the start. According to Buck, there were so many different and expensive studies about illnesses that maybe the time had come to start a study about health, its causes, and the way to prevent all diseases. And therefore, we have this Harvard study of adult development initiated by the physician Arlie Buck in the 20s of the last year. This scientific approach was implemented more than 80 years ago among 700 young men from different economic and cultural backgrounds in Boston. Every 2 years, the team contacted those chosen men wherever they were living and followed their lives, their health, and their personal conditions. Although the intention of this research was health, after so many years, another topic emerged as closely related, happiness. Years later, the current director of this research, Robert Waldinger, could add relevant conclusions. It is possible to become happy. It is neither a question of genes nor a pure coincidence. Happiness has to do with deep, stable, and strong relationships, and this conclusion is scientifically based on this study. Last but not least, deep relationships that imply strong commitments also require long-term investments, generosity in time, rituals that build interior harmony, and emotional dedication. Happiness comes as a result of flourishing, and this takes time, effort, and also the will to learn to acquire virtues, learning from others. Good relationships do reflect human dependence, do create life stability, and they start at home. Making and sustaining family life is a practice that includes the provision of care as the guiding thread of the activities that enhance, sustain, and reinforce the relationship between all the family members. As we have already said, empathy is the primary mechanism that enables a discovery of the needs that are going to be cared for. Not only bodily needs, but also mental and spiritual needs. Okay, and how can we care? Manual and domestic work, such as cooking and preparing meals or carrying out physical tasks, housekeeping, clothes washing, or decorating together, generate a material background that is the basis of family life and its well-being. Thanks to all these tasks, a concrete narrative of family emerges with a peculiar way of focusing on everyday life issues. This familial narrative could relate to celebrations, holidays, services to the neighborhood, religious acts, etc., that are part of the history a family goes through. As a result, the practice of making and sustaining a family is enriched by and has to pay attention to these two dimensions: the activities of caring that can be defined as manual work in everyday life, and the familial and other social activities that are not work, but come along and define traditions or customs of the family. A key element for human flourishing are virtues. In the case of practice of family life, we are talking of small virtues such as generosity, patience, service. Alistair McIntyre calls them virtues of acknowledged dependence that are discussed ethically in terms of benevolence towards those who are dependent and we are all dependent. These virtues are acquired at home, not as spiritual or abstract values, but accompanying the tasks that are at the basis of home, manual, domestic, and mundane tasks that provide conditions for the welfare of a family. These tasks reveal the importance of bodily well-being and the real unity of soul and body. That's why caregiving is essential to our flourishing as members of a family and to the good of human beings, individuals, precisely insofar as the success of caregiving relies on the cultivation and day-to-day deployment of the virtues. According to this, the activities at home that look to the well-being of family members and can be defined as hands-on care foster deep and stable relationships in family members. With Redgrave, we can affirm that it is through what Aristotle understood as friendships and what I am calling caring relationships, which recognize the facts of human dependency, that we learn how to achieve our species-specific flourishing as members of a community of friends rather than as individuals. This allows us to share a conclusion. The practice of family life is the best school of caregiving, the best school of virtues, the best school of solidarity, and the best school to foster relationships with other human beings, no matter what their circumstances are. In our lives, it is crucial to build this strong sense of belonging and of caring around family, because, as Nodding suggests, we learn effectively from those immediate family members we love and respect. It is not a question of quantity, but quality. Deep relationships that are developed in this first natural society are the best key to real happiness. Let's ourselves be surprised by home. Thank you so much. And I think there is a time for questions, maybe afterwards, but now I am leaving you. Bye, and thank you again.